I love food, so think of it like cake. There's thousands of different recipes for cakes. Some taste amazing, some are terrible, and there's everything in between that. The same applies for alloys and recipes. If you put in really good ingredients and you do it in the right way, you're going to get a really good output. And the same applies with jewelry, with life. So it's just ensuring that you're doing the right things at the right time and following it through. Name's Chris. I run Vinny and Charles with my wife Mel. Originally from South Africa. South Africa has 11 official languages, and one of which was Afrikaans, which is a compulsory language. And Afrikaans now at the time we didn't get on so well. So when I went to Sydney, I was continuing my high school. I was 14 at the time. I had to choose between doing jewelry, German, or Japanese at school. And I was looking at these options and thinking, look, you know, language isn't such a great strength of mine. And looking at jewelry, I thought this is also not a great idea, but better than language. So reluctantly I took it, but I actually fell in love with it. And went back to South Africa for 14 years. Traveled the world a bit, working with other jewelers just to learn different tricks and trades. The reason I heat the mold up is to prevent thermal shock on the metal. You can actually get a spray of metal if it's too much of a contrast. There's always something to learn. I know it might sound very cliched, but jewelry, it keeps you humble. There's always something you don't know. And that's the reality of it. And there's so many different rabbit holes under the category of jewelry that you can literally just keep going, and you're always going to be absorbing new information, new tricks, new tweaks, new systems, new processes. It's never ending, and that's really what keeps me going, really creates that drive and that excitement and fire for me. Unfortunately, the nature of jewelry is there's this very big perception of, oh, it's metal, there's diamonds, there's lots of financial value there. And unfortunately in South Africa, there's an awful lot of violent crime. It's not just, there's crime everywhere, but South Africa tends to be a lot more violent. I could honestly count on one hand the number of times I've been to the office without Mel, my wife. And this one day just happened to be one of those days. Got to the office, phone rang, I answered the phone, it was Mel. We just recently got married and I left her a little note saying play me, and it was our wedding song on a little tablet. So she got the note and she phoned me up, and whilst I was chatting to her, I was held up at gunpoint. Thought I was about to get shot there in the passage. I didn't want to hear me getting shot, so I hung up on her. She knew though what was going on, she could hear in the tone of my voice. That whole event happened. I was tied up, assaulted, lying in pool of my own blood, and I overheard them talking about whether or not to shoot me. So talking them out of doing that. And that was a big catalyst that really made us reassess what it is that we're doing, or where specifically we're doing it. And by our judgments and our perspectives, we felt that Australia was the better place to do it, because I love doing what I do. It's my life purpose is in this. And just literally start again, and just from scratch. Obviously had the knowledge accumulated, but from the business perspective, we had nothing. So just hit the ground running and just did what we could to just build ourselves back up and get into a point where we could sustain ourselves. Ultimately what's happening is you have to create a thermal gradient, because the way that the pieces are positioned in the flask, you want the subjects, the items to cool first, because they'll start to solidify due to shrinkage and thermodynamics. The way that any fluid works is there's particles that are separated when heated up, and as they cool they shrink, each molecule pulls together. What's happening in a thermal gradient is you're allowing in this case the rings to cool down first, so they'll actually solidify and become solid, drawing out of the reservoir, because otherwise if you do it too soon, the reservoir could cool down before your pieces that you're trying to cast will cool, and you end up having a reverse situation. The items that you're trying to actually successfully cast end up being in the reservoir, and they'll become porous, it's full of casting issues. So that's what you want to see. That's a nice looking button. That's the reservoir that I was telling you about. So this is basically sacrificial metal every time. So the idea is that with that thermal gradient, the rings will cool. As they're cooling down, they will suck that molten metal out from that button.
He's good at problem solving. He's very patient with that. Like, okay, how do we solve this problem? He'll kind of come at it from a lot of different angles, which you need with jewelry because there's so many things that can go wrong through the process of making it. So definitely I think your personality type is well suited for what you do, because there's a lot of challenges. I mean, there's challenges to running any business. There's always like a little sort of spanner in the works that comes along every now and then. You just got to have the right mindset to approach it in the right way.
It doesn't matter what it is that you do, there's always going to be some certain elements that you just don't enjoy doing, whether it's mundane stuff. Like for me, I'm not much of an accountant, but that stuff needs to be addressed and looked at, right? So, you know, it is what it is. Identify where your strengths are, play to your strengths, lean into those, and go forward. Any scenario that happens, you could look at it like this happened to me or it happened for me. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. Big takeaway and what happened for me perspective was that it made me reassess everything, and I literally looked down the barrel of a gun held to my forehead. I survived this. Yes, I very easily couldn't have because of what happened further on in that interaction, but it really gave me this awakening experience where it's like, this has happened, so anything else I try, if it fails, so what? You know? There's always ways around it. There's always things that you can reassess and do differently. What are your takeaways? And you know, nothing else is more valuable than your life. If you fail at something, trying it, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll find a way to persist through it. And, you know, that's what life is. It's just basically a series of fumbling forward without losing enthusiasm, as I think Winston Churchill once said. One of the big purposes of life is to be in service of other people. And I just feel that what we're doing, the way that we're doing it, really resonates for me within that message. Yeah, we're just embracing that and leaning into it.